Hello and welcome to another episode of our mini podcast. Today with Richard Schäfer, director. Hello, director of developer experience at Mews.
Yes, exactly.
By the way, this is the best start that we have, so we're gonna stick with it. We had already a couple of them before. So, Richard, tell me a little bit about developer experience, because I can imagine that it wasn't a dream of little Richard when you were growing up to be a director of developer experience. So, how did you get there, and what do you do?
Yeah, I got there basically. I started in platform. The DX is part of platform. The DX is developer experience. I started in platform like 5 years ago as engineer basically, and
still a student, right, at the time?
Yeah, still a student actually. And somehow based on some circumstances, I got to management. And DX was an area that was actually like kind of living next to my primary area, which was infrastructure, now called platform engineering, where we like purely focused on Azure and the systems around it. But DX was something that always kind of lived next to us, and I saw like what they are doing, like with the design system, for example, and stuff like that. And after some time, there was the opportunity to be kind of, or to move diagonally in the organization to lead DX, and I thought that there is a lot of potential behind what the tribe and the teams can achieve, what is the possible impact of our work. So I thought, yeah, let's try it, let's do it.
But I think it's very difficult for maybe any platform team to have a very visible impact for those maybe outside of it. So how do you look at this? How do you look at the fact that, sometimes it's kind of a little, you're in the, let's say, in the backstage?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Like, not everything that we do is purely or directly impacting engineers always. It's also some kind of behind the scenes work, let's say, in some way. Like, I think sort of reasonable example now is with the design system, there is this European Accessibility Act, which is kind of a huge thing and something that the team is now focused on. And it's not something that will really improve DX in any way, because it's just sort of internal ways how the components work and how accessible they are. But we kind of have this overlap also in some quality aspects of how platform looks like and how our product looks like in the end, because that's directly impacting the customers, but not purely like engineers themselves.
And do I understand correctly that developer experience is something that very likely small teams don't have? They basically do it as part of their job as an engineer, and then as you grow, you need to kind of create a separate entity that is managing the tools and stuff.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think this kind of applies to the whole platform that we have. That like if you are a small company, it doesn't really make sense to have such a dedicated team or department. But as you grow, you hit this stage of like economies of scale where it just starts to make sense when you have like, let's say 5-10 engineering teams. They likely all encounter certain common issues and common things they need to solve. And at some point, it just makes sense to have like a dedicated team to drive that, so I agree.
So you already touched a little bit upon design system, which is just one part of obviously of your team, but I think that's the maybe most visible one, maybe the one that stirs most emotions and discussions. So how do you look at the let's say adoption of design system, or maybe lack of adoption, and what do we do about it, and why should we care for a larger adoption of our design system?
Yeah, I think the primary reason is that if hypothetically you have like 100% adoption of design system, the experience of end customers of like using the product is very, very seamless and very consistent, especially that like, as Mews already has many products like PMS, POS, and others. If every product feels and looks slightly different, it kind of feels a bit, not ideal from the customer perspective. But if you do have such adoption of the design system everywhere, it's great, because like I think good example is Atlassian with like Compass, Jira, and Atlas that they have. That like whenever you go, you see and you know how the product works and what you can expect, and what are maybe even some shortcuts in the product and stuff like that. So the kind of idea is that with higher adoption, the better and more consistent the experience is for the customers.
And how do you measure the 100%, let's say, or whatever percentage we are on? Because I can imagine you have reports, you have buttons, you have colors.
Yeah, of course. Like you have different components, that's true. And what we do now is that like every component has some tag, basically, that like, hey, this is part of design system. And we actually do that like basically when we are making it quite straightforward or simple. Basically, when you see the page, when you render the page, we look at what sorts of components there are. We basically traverse like the whole page, and we measure, how much what is the percentage of the design system components used there, and what is the percentage of something.
Is that a manual work where you have to like toggle everything?
No. It's automatic fully.
Okay. So whenever we have like a new report, you get, and maybe I'm asking a stupid question, do you get like a notification there is a report that doesn't fulfill the criteria of design system? Or
No. We like this is purely automatic. So like as engineering teams are using the design system, and not everywhere, of course, because like there are also valid situations where you don't want to use it. Sorry, what was the question actually? Yeah. If we do have to do it manually, no. Like if engineers are building new features, new parts of the system, and they are using the design system components, they are labeled, they are tagged, and therefore we kind of automatically recognize, hey, there is a new page, it's being rendered, so we can measure it, and there is nothing additional for us.
So, but are there like pages now created that are completely off, or that just won't happen because of the scale and of the kind of infrastructure we have?
Well, there are situations where like the design system adoption is not.
But you said it may be justified sometimes.
Yeah, of course. Like you have situations where like, in specific products, if there is like some very specific behavior that you won't have anywhere else. Like, if we have, for example, GX with the guest facing experience and products, and not everything there will be used, across, as we are kind of targeting both B2B and B2C. The things in B2C are not always needed, in B2B and vice versa. So yeah, there are situations where it makes sense, but like it shouldn't be, of course, very common. And
I guess also design system is not a static document. It's a very living.
Yeah, of course. It's like actively developed thing. So
how is our, was it the Mews.design? Is it still kind of live, and do we update it so that, because I remember a couple of people actually thanking us for the design system, that they used it kind of as an example for their own companies. So
yeah, of course, it's live, it's accessible to anyone. We actually saw that Tomáš, the engineering manager of the team, shared with me that there was actually some post on Instagram or LinkedIn somewhere where like some totally random person was doing like overview of like interesting design systems, and Mews design system was there. So it was
congrats.
Like, nice. That feels good, of course.
And let's move away a little bit from the design system and more into the tooling, because I assume that you are introducing tools for engineers. How much are you kind of thought leaders that you are like, okay, we know this better because it's our job, so we're going to do it? And how much is it more like a conversation with the team saying, for example, okay, we need this, and you were like, okay, we're going to research it and we're going to see if it's feasible?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We basically have like two teams focused on this internal development tooling for others, and we try to strike the balance. Like, you shouldn't be on the extremes. You shouldn't only be like, hey, we know everything well and we don't need to listen to customers, listen to the engineers, but also you don't want to be just a sweatshop of like, hey, we want this, we want that, because like there is a joke that if you have 10 engineers in the room, you get 15 opinions from them. That like, every engineer
and 20 tools
and 20 tools, exactly. So we try to find a balance of actually like listening what people would ask from us and need from us, but really trying to understand. And there is like the product management aspect of this, of like trying to understand not the solution they propose, but really the problem they face. And sometimes doing what they ask us for, but sometimes actually trying to solve it in some different way that we think would be more scalable and more efficient in the future. So it's definitely about finding the right balance.
And I know you kicked off actually in cooperation with community teams, so I'm happy that there is a cooperation between the teams. The kind of front end guild meeting because as we grow and we actually figure it out that we lose this touch of cross functional, or maybe one functional but cross team collaboration. So what led you to it, and how are we going to continue it, and can we replicate that to other domains as well?
Yeah, I think this is quite challenging as we grow as a company and scale the engineering team. That it's kind of natural that you suddenly don't know everyone by name, and you don't talk with everyone regularly. But this specific, so we were aware of this to some degree, but also the kind of the initial or final nudge that made us realize, hey, like let's just do this, is that as we are doing like interviews with the product engineers. And one engineer actually told us, I think it was someone quite new to the company, like 6 months or something. And they just told us, hey, like, I don't basically know anyone, in my function, in like the front end world, I don't know anyone other than my team. And maybe like a little bit. And in that team, likely there is not maybe another front-end engineer, maybe a back-end engineer. Yeah, of course, of course. So yeah, we were just like, man, this is like really not great. So let's just kick it off. It is sort of still an experiment, because it depends how much people will be interested in that, and if we would get some good engagement of people actually showing up, sharing what they do, sharing some knowledge around it. But yeah.
Was there a specific reason you chose front end?
Because this specific interview process was focused on a front end in the beginning, and actually now we are kind of thinking if this will be successful, we will definitely like to roll it out more widely as well. Because we feel that like the engineering culture is something that we should really strive for, and the more connected we can be as engineering teams, as engineers, because there is a lot of knowledge, a lot of changes happening now with the AI, for example. So the more connected we can be.
I always check what's the minute when we mention AI,
What was this one?
I think 12 minutes.
That's good. There is a lot of changes happening. It's a very dynamic industry, right? So the more we can lean on each other, support each other, share, what we learned, share what works well for us, the better, I think, the better we can be as an organization.
But, I think what is always important about any meeting, because I think every manager, or maybe almost every IC is skeptical, yet another meeting, yet another Slack channel. So there always needs to be like someone or maybe a couple of people who are really driving it, and exactly. That also. So it's good to also spotlight, and it's all for any other team or anything. If you see somebody who is passionate about something, give them the freedom to actually create a community around them, because then they can really drive all the others.
Yeah, of course, and it's not sure, like not everyone is comfortable with speaking in front of 50, 80, and 100 people, right? So it totally makes sense that some people will be naturally more listening and still maybe typing in the chat and asking follow-up questions, but not being the ones who will be like driving the community forward, sharing stuff and I think presenting in front of people.
And I think it's always also a matter of figuring out the best format for that particular group, because I can imagine some group would appreciate a newsletter. So I think it's also about the experimental way of these things. So I wonder how we're gonna go with backend. So if there is anyone who's watching and is very passionate about these things, I'm sure you can talk to Richard or somebody else, and let's kick it off. You mentioned AI, so I want to ask you about it.
Of course.
Yes. So there is something that we recently rolled out, and I don't know when this podcast will go out, but we're talking now, it's 27th June. So what is the big thing that we actually rolled out recently?
That's Cursor. I think anyone in engineering knows what it is, because it's kind of leading AI assistant for developers these days. And of course, like the landscape is changing super rapidly, so like maybe in 6 months there will be some other leading technology, which is totally fine and expected. Cloud Code is, for example, something else that is this new cool kid around the block, sort of.
So basically, every engineer has a now subscription.
Yes, has a license.
With the
you can use the Cursor
email.
And that's something we rolled out in June recently, and we are kind of interested in how much people will use it, and how excited they will be.
I already saw that you kind of connected it with Databricks, or that you want to see like, or maybe I'm wrong, but that you will be able to track like how people are using it, and
like like the data that we have in Databricks are not connected
Okay.
With the cursor in any way, but we have like many data in Databricks, and one part of that is data from GitHub, so we can see like how much PRs we are producing as an organization and stuff like that. So that's definitely something which will be potentially good to see. If like because the hypothesis is that with cursor you can be kind of more efficient and faster. You can do, of course, some prototypes and those sorts of things, but also it should help you with like driving and basically just developing the product and everything faster slightly. And of course the percentages can vary depending on how effective user you are, but also how the tool is working with your specific tech stack and stuff. But there is the hypothesis that like we should probably see faster cycle time, that like just people are able to deliver the same work a little bit faster because some part of that code is generated for them. But also basically the overall throughput of like the amount of changes that we are shipping as organization again, or as engineering, should be kind of going upwards slightly faster than before. But of course, this is just the speed aspect.
Yep.
There is also the quality aspect. So like in theory, that's also something we need to be aware of, because in theory, you can be shipping 10 times faster. But if you need to rework and fix like 80% of that, that's not very effective way of using the time.
But I think it's a pretty good experiment in a way. Hopefully it will be a successful one. So good luck. And I'm sure you'll do a lot of interviews with engineers, how it's working. So you'll have some data soon for us. So thanks for joining me.
Thanks as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching. And as always, if you are in Mews, you can reach out to me or Richard on Slack. And if you're not, reach out to us on LinkedIn. And my question to everybody is always, do you respond on LinkedIn?
Not very well, but I can try. Thanks. Thank you as well.